Hi there and welcome to this BartenderHQ.com podcast with me, your host David Eden-Sangwell, and on this week's show we're going to be talking about the cocktail trends of 2015 and where we think they might be heading for 2016. So let's get on with the show.
Welcome to the BartenderHQ.com podcast. Find us on Facebook and Twitter at BartenderHQ. Here's your host, David Eden-Sangwell.
Okay, so 2015 has been a really cool year for bars. We've had some amazing drinks created. There's things still going on like the Bacardi Legacy competitions, which are hugely influential competitions. The Diageo World Class competitions, all that sort of thing. And you're getting a lot more of the smaller craft companies coming in there and running their own mini competitions and things like that. Things like the Golden Mauritius competition that I was proud to be asked to judge. That was very, very nice, and thank you to the guys over at Trilogy Beverages for that. And I think there's a lot more of these kind of craft spirit companies that are going to be coming through still into 2016. I've noticed that obviously the majority of the craft cocktail companies, the craft spirit companies coming through have been gin based, and I think the main reason for that is obviously it's a very quick one that you can get in and start producing right away. Things like the Loca Bev minus 33 that I was working with over at the Good Food Show for the BBC. The first bottling for that company was in March this year, March 2015. We could well be into 2016 by the time this actually comes out. And things like that, because of the way that gin's created and the fact that you take a neutral grain spirit and then you add your botanicals to it and then you can kind of bottle it right away. There's no aging process with things like gins. So that's why gins have been right at the forefront of this craft cocktail movement and the craft spirits that have been coming out. And I think over the next year or so we're going to start seeing perhaps more of the small batch stuff coming from different categories. So well, you've had things like the Aylesbury Duck Vodka from the 86 Spirit Company over in the States, and the 86 Spirit Company stuff I really enjoy. The Ford's Gin is great, the Aylesbury Duck Vodka, and their other products as well are really, really nice. Got to try those at Imbibe this year. I'm definitely going to try and make it down to Imbibe again next year, so if any of you guys are planning on making a trip down there, drop me a message on Twitter and we'll hook up for a beer. But I think we're going to see some of these craft spirits coming through into some other categories. So things like the whiskies, which have all been dominated by the big brands for years and years. Although the single malts are kind of already there as your craft options. So it's a little bit of a weird category for that. I know we've got a lot of craft bourbons coming out in the US and craft whiskies over there. Scotch, as I say, always had its single malts, and that's kind of the craft end of the Scotch market. I think vodka is going to be perhaps one of the next ones, although it's difficult with a lot of vodkas to differentiate. It's more about the branding and the marketing in most cases. Not all of them. As I say, the Aylesbury Duck Vodka has got that lovely buttery flavour to it, and that really stands out amongst vodkas for me from this year and from previous years. Looking towards rums, though, I think with some of the trade embargoes that have been lifted with Cuba, we might see some more activity in that kind of market. Rum's been quite cool recently, and always been quite cool with bartenders anyway. It's been one of those drinks that bartenders have kind of had a little bit of a monopoly on. Bartenders have always known that you can get really good value from rums. Even the best rums don't tend to be as high price-wise as some of the scotches, the bourbons, and some of the other drinks out there. I think Mezcal might well make a bit of a breakthrough in 2016. But in terms of flavours within the actual cocktails, you only need to look at things like the Bacardi Legacy and what's happening in cocktail competitions to see what's been really, really popular. So salt in cocktails has obviously become huge in comparison to previous years. This year in competitions, salt is great. For some reason, even though chefs have been using it for years to bring out different flavours in all kinds of foods, bartenders haven't kind of capitalised that really until 2015, so I'm looking to see that kind of move out into more of the mainstream. I wouldn't be surprised if TGI Fridays start using some sort of salt waters or saline mists or that kind of thing on some of their cocktails next year, and I think it is going to become much more mainstream to see salt in cocktails. As a result of that, I think obviously the top end bartenders are going to start searching for even more different ingredients that they can bring into their drinks. Now, I've just entered a competition with Bombay Sapphire. There's a mixology competition, and I created a drink that I call the Scarborough Christmas Fair. So that used the herbs that are mentioned in the Scarborough Fair song. So parsley, sage, rosemary and thyme, in with the Bombay Sapphire, a little bit of lime. You've got to have your citrus there for balance. For me, at any rate, it brings that drink to life. Again, used a little bit of salt in there and that sort of thing. That's all been judged now, but at the time of recording, I have no idea what the results are. So keep an eye for future podcasts to see how we got on and see if we won. Now, the other thing that I think is going to be very, very popular, although we've got these bars everywhere that are now going down the line of being specific to a single spirit, so we've got a lot of gin parlours opening up, gin and tonic bars, we've got bourbon bars, we've got smokehouses, like Rub Smokehouses, very much kind of whiskey and bourbon oriented, although they do also reach out into a lot of other cocktail categories. I think we're going to see more of this, and we're going to see more bars going down a single kind of funnel. It's specialisation, and it's something that happens everywhere. It's even going back this sounds silly, I know, but if you go back to sort of the Iron Age, Bronze Age, Stone Age, everyone kind of took care of everything that they needed themselves. So you would only survive if you could find your own shelter, if you could grow your own food or catch your own food, and that kind of thing. Now, nowadays, we have money, so we can kind of barter, and you can have somebody that knows how to build houses, that builds houses for everyone, and then we give them money, and then they can buy their food, and that sort of thing. So that's why we have economies the way that we do, and that's actually, as silly as it sounds, this is kind of why bars are becoming more specialised, because you've got more bars around, I think, and more specialised bars. Because the bars can specialise in a specific cocktail and become incredibly good at it, you'll attract the people that really care about it. And it's the same actually with the internet. The reason that you can get people up to such a high standard with juggling and flair bartending and things like that nowadays, which we probably didn't say 10 or 12 years ago, is because brand new flair bartenders can look online. They can see moves that are already being done by people, regardless of whether they can do them immediately or whether there's a tutorial there. They can watch it, they can see that that is a possible thing to do, and then they can work towards it, and then they can put their own spin on it, and we're all standing on the shoulders of giants. So where we're taking these individual spirits and creating a whole bar and a whole brand around them to create more interesting variations on the cocktails and to take things in a new direction. Things like the Botanist bar, for example, although they're not on a specific spirit, their main drive is obviously pushing towards using more botanicals and more natural ingredients, fresh fruits and flowers and herbs and that kind of thing. They've got a very kind of a country garden kind of feel to their bar and to all their cocktail menu. So again, they're kind of going on a different offshoot rather than going down the specific this one, going for a gin parlour or going for a rum bar or a tiki bar or a bourbon bar, that kind of thing. So I think we might find, in the UK at least, I think tequila will probably take off a little bit more. It's always been a little bit of a backseat over here, although margaritas in the US has always been a very, very popular drink, and people are very often, they'll just drink margaritas. Margaritas in the UK have never really taken off in a huge way, in the same way that they have in the US. But I think tequila as a category is going to take off in the UK in 2016 in a big way. The Tommy's margaritas, the sweeter margaritas that are coming out nowadays, I think those are going to be a big influence and a big driver of that. So that is kind of a few of the little things. And I think we're actually going to see even more specialisation in 2016. We're going to see not just gin parlours, but gin and tonic bars and gin cocktails splitting off. I think we might see some more Scotch-based bars coming out, because at the moment it's kind of cool to have the American whiskies. Scotch still hasn't got the cool kind of aspect that it has in the States, in the UK, which is weird because we're a lot closer to Scotland. So I think Scotch and soda might actually become like a concept in the UK that's not really been a thing at the moment over here. So you might see some bars opening up that have a really nice Scotch library and that sort of thing. So down the line of these gin and tonic bars that are coming out, we've got one that's just opened in Birmingham. I'm going to go and check that out early in the new year. I know they had some technical problems over Christmas, so they were closing between Christmas and New Year just to sort some things out. I think maybe some cooling stuff, I'm not quite sure. But I'm going to go and check those guys out in the new year and see what they're doing. But one of the big videos that I'm going to be making over the next few weeks is taking the gin and tonic and trying kind of every variation we can do, but still using only one gin and one tonic. So we're going to take the -33, it's a juniper distilled spirit, not exactly a gin, but close enough in terms of the flavours and that sort of thing. It's going to make no difference for the experiment that we're doing. So we're going to take Loca Bev's -33 juniper spirit. We're going to mix that with Fever Tree tonic, and then we're going to try as many different garnish options as possible. So we're going to go with the traditional limes, lemons, oranges, grapefruits. We're going to try some different herbs with it. We're going to throw some different new stuff in there and just and try literally as many different variations as we can. So basically making up one large gin and tonic, portioning it out into small glasses once it's nice and chilled, and see where we go with that. See what is the ultimate gin and tonic service. What's the best way of serving it? Should we muddle limes with it? Should we be chucking some orange peel in there? Is it different when you go with orange peel or lemon peel, lime zest, as opposed to using the heart of the fruit? So I really want your feedback on this, and I want your ideas. So send me what your best gin and tonic serve. I want to know the best way that you found to serve it, the best fruits or herbs or anything else that complements it. We're going to be using the -33 for this video, so let me know what is the best way to serve a gin and tonic. So that's going to about do it for this week, guys. Let me know all of those things. Get in touch with the show in any way that you can, and I really want you guys to be involved with this. I'll give you a little nod, a bit of a credit, or let people know your Twitter handle for your particular gin and tonic. So let me know, and I will see you next week on the bartenderhq.com podcast.
Thanks for listening to the bartenderhq.com podcast. Find us on Facebook and Twitter at bartenderhq.